Hi, it's Ryan from Knights Around a Table. What happens when you download a file to 3D print a board game insert and you don't like the text that's on the object? Or what if the object has no text and you want to put text on it? Well, I'm going to show you how to deal with those two situations coming up right now on this episode of Bits Please. Bits Please! Alright, so the game in question is On Mars, which I got for Christmas a couple of years ago, and then about half a year later, Eagle Gryphon Games, who publishes that game, sent me a couple of freebies, 5 other games, and I started to notice a common thread among these games. But first, here's a public domain picture of a duck. I downloaded this image for free, and I'm showing it to you to remind you that you can support this channel on Patreon for not free. How does it make sense that I'm using free imagery to encourage you to spend money on Knights Around a Table? Well, that's something I like to call duck logic. Let's take a look inside. Woohoo! Box Fartometer 5. So, these inserts, the way that this game is published and put together is gorgeous. All the flat stuff fits on top. You got some catalogs, some extra boards. There's the rule book. There's another rule book. It's that kind of game. A little player, I don't even know what that is. But check this out. You got this beautifully cut piece of foam that fits in here nicely so that your player boards fit and don't slide around. When you take that off, this is a common thing with all like the Lacerda games. They did this with the Rococo Deluxe game. You take this sheet off so it separates all the pieces that could slosh around in there. And then look, oh, you've got all these lovely compartments. Some of them come out. Some of them don't, but they should. Like this piece over here, this should come out. It doesn't. I'm a little bit burned. I might even cut that because you kind of fishing these anyway. Whatever. But they've got, look, they've got this little thing so these don't slide around. So it's like 95% of the way there. But the frustrating thing is that, you know, it's 95% of the way there. Then when you get to this part, it's just like I don't know. Let's just put a big recess in here and you can throw all the other crap in there. Look, they got little, you can fit all these things in nicely. These things go here. These are beautifully cut around and all the wood pieces go in here, and then, yeah, you know, figure it out. So I don't know why, but it seems like with every Eagle Gryphon game, with all the Lacerda games, and like I said, Rococo Deluxe, it's 95% of the way there, but then there's that, just that one little like, yeah, we gave up. So I don't know what's up with that, but one of my Patreon backers, Oberon, recommended this insert to me. So let's go to thingiverse.com. This is a place, one of many, where you can get free 3D files to print out on your 3D printer. So there are a bunch of great board game inserts that are designed by people for free and stuck up here for free, and you can download them for free and print them for free. And the one in question is just a couple of little trays that can fit inside that recess, designed by ArtaiusArdent. Thank you for your service. So I want to print this out, but check it out. ArtaiusArdent has put the words On Mars and embedded them into the insert. And you know what? I don't like it. If you compare what this insert designer has done with the actual logo of the game, the word mark of the game, they don't look anything alike. For one thing, the On Mars word mark is all caps, and the designer of this insert has decided to go with a mixture of uppercase and lowercase. I'm not sure why. The font is not a good match. And there's a leading problem. Now, leading is the space between two lines of text. And if you look at the On Mars logo, there's like negative leading, right? The words overlap each other. So there's negative under zero space between the two lines. And that's just enough to kind of bug me. And if it bugs you like it bugs me, you want a way to be able to take that STL file that you download and modify it. The process of getting rid of text like that is fairly straightforward. So let me show you how to do that using only free software. Okay, so here we are in Blender 2.9.2, which is the best free software money can buy. If you keep an eye down in the bottom left here, you'll be able to see the mouse buttons and the keyboard keys that I use to do the stuff I'm doing. This is a cube, we don't need it. You can click it and get rid of it by hitting delete. You want to go up to File, Import, STL, and open that file we downloaded from Thingiverse. If you can't see it, maybe just scroll your mouse wheel so you can. Yeah, I was zoomed in too much to be able to see it. And there it is. We can select it, deselect it. And there is the offensive writing that we want to get rid of. So one thing I want to point out is if you were looking at this from top on, it would look as though the text disappeared. The text is still there. It's still indented. It's just the way the lighting is falling on it, we can't really see it. And as soon as you tilt a little bit using your middle mouse button, you're able to see it again. So that's all that's going there. But we will need to be in the top mode in order to really cleanly get rid of it. Next thing I want to point out is in order to get rid of it, we need to go into the edit mode so that we can see all the vertices, the edges, and the faces of the model. And here it is right here. You can see very clearly. If I were to just select that text right now, it would look like we got it all, right? We got a little bit of that circle up there. So I'll just hit Shift mouse button in order to select everything to add to my selection. There, we've got it all. Looks like we've got it all. However, I don't actually have it all, because what's going on is what we call occlusion, which is where I'm selecting the vertices on the very top, but because it's indented, embedded, there are vertices behind this on Mars that describe the geometry of the indentation of the text, if that makes any sense. And if I tilt, we can't see it because we can't see through this wall. It's all solid. So what we actually have to do is we have to change to wireframe mode. And when we do that, I can tilt and look. You can see if we look underneath it, we don't have all the vertices selected that define the whole thing, all of the pieces of text. So that's something to really watch out for, especially if you're new to Blender. That can really trip you up. So I'm going to go back into, top mode. And now that we have it on wireframe mode, if I select all the text, again, Shift Select to add to my selection, now, because we're seeing through the model, if we tilt like that and go underneath, look, we can see that we got all of the vertices that form those letters. There's a little snafu to watch out for. Now, getting rid of them is really simple. There are a couple of ways that you can try to do this, and I'll show you why they don't work. So if I right-click and hit Merge Vertices at center, well, I guess that does kind of work, actually. It gives this weird, like, a puckered balloon knot kind of thing going on, and I don't really know. So the reason why this isn't super great is because what happened was it merged them at the same position as one of the vertices on the bottom of that text, so you can't really see it here. But if I go back to solid mode, you can kind of see that it's like indented. It goes down a little bit because it's at the bottom of where the text was. So I don't know, merge vertices is not exactly what you want. So I'm gonna hit undo, Control Z to undo. What you do want, let me go back to wireframe. What you do want is to right click. Oh, another thing you don't want to do, definitely not, is you'd think, oh, you know, I'll hit delete. I'll delete the vertices and that'll get rid of them. And that looks okay until you realize when you go back to solid mode, well, you've totally gotten rid of that entire face that describes that part of the model. That's going to print with a big hole in it, and it's going to confuse your printer, and it's going to be, what's the word? Not non-Euclidean, but there's certain, when geometry is like this, your 3D printer won't print it because it gets confused, and it's like, what are you exactly trying to tell me here? So let's undo that. That's not the way you want to go. What you do want to do is right click and hit dissolve vertices. So that kind of makes it so that they never existed, but it, ooh, look at that, beautiful. And it tries to sort of repair all the geometry around it in the most sensible way. Just by doing that, just by selecting it in wireframe mode and hitting dissolve vertices, we've completely gotten rid of it. And now we can print this and it's just going to be a smooth top. Pretty simple.
All right, so the text is gone, but what if you really had your heart set on Mars being stamped into that tray? You just wanted to make it look more like the game's word mark. Well, the steps you have to go through to do that are a little bit more involved, admittedly, than getting rid of the text. But if you're at least as smart as me, and odds are pretty likely, you should be able to do it no problem. I'm going to show you the steps to go through to do that.
We're going to start out in a little known website called Google. I'm going to type on Mars. You can go to Board Game Geek and do this if you want. We'll hit image search and we'll find a nice picture of the On Mars cover. This one looks pretty good. What do I do? Copy image link and then paste that. There it is. So I'm going to save that to my desktop. Next is you want this website called What the Font, part of myfonts.com. And what this lets you do is it lets you upload an image. So we're going to pick that On Mars image that we just saved. And then look, it already knows where the text is. So this is a site. The whole purpose of the site is to identify a font from an image and then try to sell you that font. So check it out. It tries to match it and sell you that exact font. And it does it with varying degrees of success. So sometimes it finds the exact font that you're looking for, and sometimes it finds sort of fonts that look like the one in the picture. I think this one here looks pretty darn close to it, doesn't it? Now this font costs $34.99, and that's for suckers. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the font name right here, Control C,
And then back in Google, I'll paste the name of the font and I'll type alternative. So this site, What Font Is, purports to give us some alternatives to that. Let's check them out. So up here you can type in the text as you want it to appear so that you can kind of compare. And look, like this looks pretty close. We talked about leading before. The space between the letters is called kerning, and you can tell the kerning on this font is a little wider than the font that we were using, but this is adjustable on a lot of software, so I suggest we grab this one and just see what we can do with it in Blender. I won't go through all of the steps required to download a font in a zip file and extract that and install it on your operating system. Hopefully you know how to do that. If not, there's tons of other videos to help. So here we are back in Blender. I'm going to hit Tab to get out of the edit mode for this object. I'm going into the top view. You can add text by hitting Shift A and choosing text from this resulting menu. And it's added. We can see it up here in the scene collection, but we can't really see it here in the viewport. Where is it? Well, if you have something selected here and you can't see it, it's probably just because it's at a different scale. If you want to zoom right into something like that, you hit the period key on your number pad. Boom, there it is. So in order to actually edit the text, I would just hit Tab like I would with a larger mesh, and I want to type on Mars. There it is. And I hit G, I can move it around. There it is. We'll resize it in just a second. To change the font, you go down here to this little A, to the object properties, and expand this that says font. And then you've got a folder here. So click on that folder. And then you get a whole list of all the fonts on your machine. And I think Tomato was the name of the font that we just grabbed. Tomato. Okay, that was a little bit annoying. I had to nip out to Google to figure out what was going on. It didn't want me to find the font in the Windows Fonts folder. I had to go to C users, my name, app data, local Microsoft Windows fonts. I don't know why. But here it is. Tomato round condensed thin. There we go. Now I mentioned kerning. In order to shrink that a little bit so it looks a bit more like what's on the cover of the box, scroll down here. If we go to character spacing, look, we can just accordion it in and out. Get it looking a little bit tighter like it is on the box. Now the other thing that's going on with this logo is that it's stacked, so Mars is on the bottom and on is on the top. And then in Z depth, or the other dimension we're talking about, on is behind the word Mars. So we can get that going like so. We'll go back into Tab, we'll get rid of the word Mars, Tab back out, Shift A, text, Tab into that, type the word Mars, Tab out of that, go up here, pick the font. Oh man. C users Ryan. Here's the annoying part. App data, the folder isn't selectable from this list, so you actually have to type it up here. App data. Local. Microsoft. Windows. Fonts. Where are you, Tomato? There we go. I'm sure I could have copy pasted this and re-edited it, and that would have been a little bit faster. Adjust the character spacing so it's a little bit tighter. Looks good. I'll hit G. Now I can hit S to scale it. And a little bit more. And a little bit more. Yeah, that looks quite a bit like it does on the cover. If we go like this and we rotate it, we can tell our text is still very, very flat, which is what we do not want. So we want it to have 3 dimensions and make an indent in our tray. So we need to extrude it to give it some depth. So you right-click and hit Extrude Size. As you move the mouse back and forth, it lets you make it a certain thickness.
let's go with, it really doesn't matter at this point how thick it is, and you'll see why in a bit. So we'll give it some thickness, and then we'll give the on some thickness. What really matters is that if we go to the side, what really matters is that on, I'm going to hit G, and I'm going to make it maybe that deep. And that's hard to say without the scale being proper. But what matters is that the on goes deeper than the Mars. Right? Because it's behind the Mars. So if we go back to the top, grab them both, and scale them up more to what they're going to be when we want to stamp them into the model. I'm going to hit rotate Z -90. Nope. 90. Nope. -90. There we go. Third time lucky. So that looks way more on brand. It's in the wrong position. Grab it, move it up, constraining it to the Z by tapping Z. And here is where we probably want to dive into wireframe mode and just check the depth on that. So make it go that deep, and maybe the on goes that deep. And we can go a bit deeper. Sure, let's do that. Now, these are not technically... Whoops, I'm putting some Zs on there. These are not technically meshes, and in order to do the next step, we need to make them meshes. So select the thing, go up to Object, hit Convert to Mesh, and now it's a mesh. Now, once you convert a text thing to mesh, you won't be able to tab into it and change the text. So don't do this until you're really happy with the way the letters look. We'll do the same thing over here, Object, Convert to Mesh. And if I hit Shift, click, and select them both and hit Control J, that joins them. And now they are the same object, which is what we want for the next bit, which is where we click on the tray, go over here to a little wrench, hit Add Modifier, and we're going to choose Boolean. And this little eyedropper here, we'll click it and click the text. We can't see that anything's happened, but we need to hide this text. So if you click on it and hit the eyeball, we can see something's happened, but it's not a good thing. So what may be happening is that there's just not enough geometry or detail on this part of the tray in order to make that text cut out nicely. Booleans have always been, you know what, I used 3D software 20 years ago when I was in college, and Boolean didn't work very well back then. And you know what, 20, 25 years later, it still kind of stinks. So let me just get rid of this. I'll go in here, inside here. I'll select this face. I'll triangulate the faces. There we go. That adds a bit more geometry. Now let's see if we have any better luck. Select it, eyedropper, text, hide the text. Oh, God. Still no good. Look at this nonsense. This is what you get when you use free fonts, folks. Well, this is terrible news. This is if this ever happens to you, what I recommend is that you go back and try a different font, because this one is clearly busted. And we're back. So I redone the whole thing with a completely different font. This one's called Miso. Let's see if we have more luck with it. I wouldn't say that's more luck. On, looking good.
Hey, look at that. So one at a time did the trick. And there you go. So you've got a much more sort of box accurate font drilled down into your tray. Hallelujah.
Okay, and here they are, the little trays designed for On Mars by ArtaiusArdent. Again, thank you so much. I don't mean to impugn you too much by saying I don't like the text that you did. So I just got rid of the text. I didn't print out one that had the smaller On Mars in there because I don't know that I'll ever open this box and think to myself, what game is this again? I don't see any reason to have that printed on there. However, I will say that there was another insert where I did actually use this method. It was on this absolutely awesome Praga Caput Regni insert designed by a designer called tvkili. This piece was too large for my print bed, so I'm going to have to glue that together. But look at this. If you've played this game, you know that it's kind of a pain to stack the tiles up by the side of the board. I think it is anyway. And so what tvkili designed is the level 1 tiles can go on this side of this, and then the level 2 tiles can go on that side of that. And I just kind of wanted 1 and 2 stamped into it. So I found a good font that worked with the game, and I stamped the Roman numeral 2 and the Roman numeral 1 on either side of it. And I think that looks pretty boss. Or embossed. Anyway, let's get that On Mars thing put together. And look at that, everything fits really beautifully. It was a little tight here, but that'll loosen up a bit for those little square pieces. And the designer, ArtaiusArdent, has also left a little spot for 2 8-sided dice, which he says he uses for the solo mode. Really clever, really well designed. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if this insert was 95% of the way there, well, now I think it's 100. If you are into 3D printing and board games and you want to join us on the Discord server, we have a special channel called 3D Printing where it's kind of like an emotional support group, really. If your printer breaks down, we'll be a shoulder to cry on and we'll pat your back. If you want to show off your prints or if you want to get ideas of what to print next, that's a great place to hang out. Everybody there is super nice, so if you're super nice, please join us. Thanks again to these insert designers for putting forth the time and effort to producing these for us for free. ArtaiusArdent, who designed the On Mars trays, and tvkili, who did the Praga Caput Regni insert. Thanks to Oberon for the recommendation. If you would like to support this channel on Patreon, there's the address below, patreon.com/knightsaroundthetable. If you're interested in learning how to play On Mars, please check out my How to Play On Mars video. It took me ever so long to make it. That's it for me. Catch you in the next episode of Bits, Please. Did you just watch that whole thing? Oh, hey, to 100% this video, click the badge to subscribe, and then click the bell to get notifications when I've got new stuff.